How to resolve conflict within sibling relationships. What is something you think their romantic partner should know about them? In what ways are you similar and in what ways are you different? What was something you wish you could have done for the other growing up? Is it normal to dislike every guy my sister dates? I think we've gotten a lot better at this.
We have gotten a lot better at this.
We have been trying to set this video up for probably, not kidding, I don't know, how long do you think it's been?
2 hours at minimum.
2 hours. I was like, okay, let's change up the scenery. Tried to film in Eden's room. Wasn't happy with the shot.
It was not working.
It was not working. So we're back in my room, but the vibes are high, and I'm joined with my
brother.
Finally, the last time we sat down and like talked was the podcast.
When did we film the podcast?
That's what I'm trying to remember. It literally feels like we were different people then. Like,
yeah. I mean,
it was before you went traveling. Before I went to London.
True. Damn, it was a different era. We were different people.
Different era. For those of you who don't know, this is Eden, my younger brother. And I was like, I really want to do another sit-down video. I loved filming the video with Mom. And I was like, you know what? I feel like we've been through a lot as siblings. So we asked you guys on my Instagram, like, ask us questions. And you guys pulled through. So we're going to try to do our best to answer sibling-related questions.
Woohoo! Let's go.
All right, I guess...
Have I been on your channel before?
I actually... Whoa, you know what? You have been in... Whoa. You have been in vlogs before. But yeah. I don't think we've ever actually done a sit-down.
Well, here we are, sitting down.
Crazy.
Let's do it.
How has your relationship evolved as you've gotten older? In the past, 3 years, or maybe more. I feel like you've really come into yourself as, a young adult. So have I. And I feel like now we're in this, really beautiful place of, having, a friendship beyond siblings and, actually seeing each other as, human beings and being oh, fuck, I'm really grateful I grew up with you.
It's different because it's we actually have lives outside of the family system. You know? We were kind of together as siblings and it was great, but I feel like until I finished school and you kind of moved to London and we did all the travels exactly like you said, and we were kind of, meeting each other again as actual friends and being I fuck with you, I want to spend time with you, not literally. Just because you're my sibling. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's relationships with their siblings are so different as well, which is I think a good thing to say with this video. Any advice or anything we give, it's really coming from our experience, and don't want to feel like we're preaching or saying this way is the right way, and every relationship is so different. Which is huge. In what ways are you similar and in what ways are you different? It's funny, I see us kind of taking on not each other's characteristics but characteristics that the other person has, because I've always been a very much more introverted, my own space kind of calmer person, especially since I've been older, and you were always very social, very outgoing, very this, and now you're kind of I think finding a little bit more introversion, and I'm starting to feel the opposite where I'm I'm literally moving to another city because I'm I need more, I need something else, and I'm that's not okay here. I'm going to hibernate in this room for a few months. That's really true. When we're creating stuff, I feel like I'm a lot more of a technical person. I really enjoy the doing and the how and the kind of hands-on thing, where you are not. The reason I'm aggressively nodding is because I feel like that's beyond also creative things, but just in general in life, if you ever show me your I don't know, YouTube algorithm or what I'm watching is just completely different. It's very rare when one of our things cross over. Definitely. Yeah. But then also at the same time, somehow we're also sometimes on the same wavelength as well. Well, I think on that, before what I was saying with creative things and feeling I'm more on the technical side, I think the other way to look at it is just you're a lot more intuitive and a lot more kind of run and gun. You have a vision and then you kind of figure out the pieces along the way to get there. Whereas I'm much more I need to figure out every single piece first to see how it comes together. What do you wish the other would know about themselves? I feel for me, what I wish you knew, which I feel now that you're
older, I feel like it has changed and you do know it more. But I think I used to really feel like you weren't able to see yourself from the outside, and like how actually like talented and capable you are, and like where your skills lied. Like I feel like growing up you were always just like, I don't know, just like put yourself down a lot and were just like, I have nothing special about me. And I was just like, what do you mean? Like, you're so talented in so many ways. I feel like you're slowly seeing that, but I can still see sometimes that you're like, I don't know, it's just hard when you see someone so talented that you love so much, like not be able to see themselves from how the rest of the world see them, you know?
Aww.
Nice. I mean it.
What I was thinking of before and what came up for me as well now in the same time was like a similar thing of, I don't think you realize how capable you are and how insane what you have accomplished already is. Like for someone in their early 20s to have their own business that they built themselves, their own production company, their own podcast, their own successful YouTube channel, their own jewelry brand, their own website, their own like everything. And then also in that finding space to like build amazing connections with your friends and with your partners, and to live here and to live in London and like all this shit, like, and a million things that aren't in my head at the moment. Like,
thank you.
That's insane. And
Thank
I wish
you.
sometimes that you could see that more and to be, you know, let your confidence build on what you've already accomplished, because it's incredible. Doing it.
I'm proud
Epic.
of you.
Another one down. Proud of you too.
The next question is, what was something you wish you could have done for the other growing up? You said you had an answer for this one when we saw it briefly, but I don't know.
I had an answer, and it's a bit of a cop-out. But my answer was, because originally, like, the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh, I wish I would have given you more space when you were younger and when you were a teenager. But then I thought about it more, and I was like, I don't think so, because I don't think we would have the relationship we had today unless we had that friction when we were younger.
Yeah,
which
for sure.
I wouldn't trade our relationship now for anything.
I think there was a period where you were going through a lot more than I realized. And I think I wish I could have had the understanding of how to, be there for you in that time more. Like, I did my best, but like looking back, I'm like, oh, like every human, you were going through your own stuff, and that was maybe then leading you to act a certain way. But because you were my little brother and I just didn't know, I was just like, oh, he's just being moody or annoying or whatever, without being like, oh, he's actually like dealing with shit, because he's like an actual human like me. So maybe that, I don't know. What is something you think their romantic partner should know about them to make it work? I have an answer. The thing that comes to mind is like, I think you're such a softie. Like, I think you're actually such a sensitive being, like in not in like a overly sensitive way, but you just like, you have a big heart and you are a softie. And I think from the outside, I think a lot of people don't see that. I think people can get like a more he's real confident and like grounded and doesn't let things affect you. And I think being your sister and seeing, I'm like, that's just not always the case. Like anyone, like we look at these people and put them on such like a pedestal of like, oh, they're so like comfortable and confident and don't care, but most of us do. And I think that's one thing, like in relationships, like I'd want your partner to be like, to know that you're like, I don't know, just have the biggest heart and like actually feel things deeply.
This applies to everyone, but I think especially for you, it's really important to have someone that's there and willing to do the work. That is kind of, I think we're both, but especially you, are very lucky to have mum as a mum who's a couples therapist. And our parents' relationship is in many ways really incredible. So we have very high standards, and we're also quite, in general, we're quite emotionally intelligent and know what we want, and also know the work that's required to get there. So if you express that to your partner, I just want someone for you that's willing to say, yes, I see that, and I agree with you, and I'm willing to put in the work for that.
Ditto.
Next us.
Have you ever disapproved of your sibling's romantic partner? Tips on how to handle that. And I think also
tips on how to handle that.
Yeah, and then
I like that part.
And then someone also wrote, is it normal to dislike every guy my sister dates?
I think yes and yes. I think I can speak for myself, and maybe this will resonate with especially any men out there that are listening. I know there's not many of you, but maybe there are.
I love my last video. I had so many men send me messages.
Oh, really?
I was like,
good on you,
fuck
boys.
yeah. It was
Welcome.
really supportive, lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in many ways it's just easy for men to see the worst in other men and to kind of be very not protective in like a weird, creepy way, but just being like, oh, I can see that there's potential for this to go really bad.
Yeah.
And in some ways, anyone can seem like a threat from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, I felt very comfortable around all your boyfriends. They all seemed great and they all seemed like really good dudes. But there was always a thought in the back of my head of like,
they're gonna hurt her, or like,
who is this guy?
Yeah.
What's he doing? Not that they're gonna hurt you, but they could.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I think from that perspective, it is normal to be wary. I think if you like fucking hate every guy that your sister brings home, then maybe that's something else. And I don't think it's that conscious of like, oh, this guy's a potential threat. I think it's more just in the back of your mind. It's a possibility.
Yeah.
So I feel sometimes a little bit like, want to suss this guy out first. In terms of dealing with it, I think just open lines of communication. Just make sure that you have a relationship with your sibling, that you're comfortable expressing those things.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a, I know what's right and you need you need to fix it. But just in a like, hey, this is how I feel. I want you to be able to take care of yourself and whatever else it is. Or if something doesn't feel right, to be like, hey, this doesn't feel right. Which I have done to you a few times. Been like, this feels off to me.
Yeah, fully. And I really appreciate it. When you love someone so much and you're so close to someone, especially with family, I think our whole family is just very protective of our family. Like,
definitely.
I think we have both experienced that, where if like, you know, we can all make fun of each other, but if anyone else makes fun of us or something, we're like, you're literally,
who the fuck are you?
like, yeah, like watch out. We're not fucking, yeah. So I think like we have this like, you know, wanting to protect our family because we know each other's hearts and everything. But I feel like it's really important in relationships to have that also understanding of like, okay, they just have to figure it out themselves. And like, even if I see that this partner might not be the greatest or whatever, it's like you have to be the support for them rather than the like person that's like, he's not right, I don't like him, or I don't like her, or whatever. Totally. Because then I feel like also the other person feels less likely to open up about if anything like goes wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, definitely. It's like a fine line, because it's the same with like when there's like actually a toxic relationship. Especially I can speak from like a lot of like my friends. When you're in it, you're so kind of in denial and you don't want other people to hate your partner. So you kind of hide all the toxic things that they do, because you're like, oh fuck, if I tell my friends this, I know they're going to be like, what the fuck, you have to leave him or have to leave, you know? So I think there's also a fine line of being like, I'm here for you, and like I don't maybe like click with him, or I see things that I don't like, but I trust you and I support you. I just want you to know that I'm there if something happens, and just like trusting that they'll figure it out. For sure. You know? And just because you tell someone something doesn't mean you're right or they need to listen to you as well. Exactly. Like when I came to you and said, hey, this person is giving me a bad vibe, you're allowed to just be like, hey, I see your perspective, I hear you, and I disagree, and I'm gonna trust myself, and it all works out, you know? Exactly. And also relationships, like I've had so many relationships that I've looked at with my friends even, where I'm just like, I don't know about this one. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes actually like I didn't know the partner super well. I'm like, oh, actually they cool. Work together. I don't know, like somehow. In some weird way. So it's like, for sure. Also just knowing like you might not know the best, especially in relationships. So much of romantic relationships is not when they're in front of other people. Yeah, you know? Exactly. You have the most intimate understanding of your partner. Yeah. That, you know, you're with, and someone outside of the relationship might not necessarily see that. Literally. So, 100%. How to resolve conflict within sibling relationships. I think we've gotten a lot better at this. We have gotten a lot better at this. Through practice. Fire and fucking brimstone, man. I feel like for me and you, because we are such different people and our brains work in such different ways, the only way that we can really work through conflict is just like actually having those conversations, which you know, if you're a human, you would know any conflict kind of conversations are just so hard to have, because firstly, starting them is really hard. Secondly, being vulnerable and like expressing yourself from that place is really hard. And then also being able to like put your ego aside and really like hear another perspective or another side is also like requires like a lot of humility and trust and openness.
A trap a lot of people fall into is someone will say something and the other person will feel like they're accusing them, and then will get defensive, and then it becomes an argument, and it's not productive.
Yeah.
And it's just as hard, but you didn't get anywhere with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Literally.
So I think clear communication that you can both feel comfortable and vulnerable and genuine in.
Yeah.
So you can both express what you want without feeling like, oh, the other person is going to hate me if I say this or whatever.
No.
You know?
I feel like also in sibling relationships, it's very easy to, I don't know, treat them differently than how you would treat a friend. Like, you can, you know, with a friend, it's like, if they bring up something, you might be a lot more open to being like, oh, but then if a sibling is like, hey, this is upsetting me, you're like, shut the fuck up, you know? We've gotten a lot better at like really just like hearing each other out and being like, I have a blind spot there, or like, I didn't see that, and like, I really hear you. And I feel like from us both doing it to each other, it makes it easier to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the more we've had these conversations, the more we're able to like, and it's never easy, it's never fun, but it always makes us closer.
Yeah. And it's also a journey. Like, again, we are quite young in this form of our relationship, you know what I mean?
Fully.
So it's as we're getting older and as we have more conversations and we have more conflicts and whatever, we're getting better at bringing it up to each other. And also, I think, at least from my perspective, feeling like we're getting better at seeing things that it's like, oh, this is not necessarily a big deal to me.
Yeah.
But I know this really matters to you, so I'm not going to like, I'm going to put effort into making this right and easy for both of us.
Also, a huge thing I would like to add with like conflict within sibling relationships, I mean, every relationship, but I think with siblings, it's like we feel like sometimes we know them. We have this idea of like, I've literally seen them grow up, like I know who they are. But I think a huge thing that really helps is just to stay curious. Like, you actually don't know the person 100%. They have a life outside of you. They may feel things very differently to you, and your idea of who they are might not actually be 100% in line with who they are or who they
100%.
think they are. And I think that's like a huge thing of like when we have these conversations, like trying to be curious of like, okay, like let me actually understand, rather than like thinking we already know. And I think that's also something we've gotten definitely better at.
It's a really easy trap to get into. Like, I've known you for so many years, but
like, I know how you think, I know what you this
I know your patterns, but it's tough to remember in the moment that yes, I have known you for years, but all that means is that I know who you were. I know some of the context leading up to now, but it doesn't mean that I understand you any better in your current form or where you are at in your life now. Yeah, I love that. Stay curious. It's good. It's a good one.
Okay, what has built your trust in your relationships?
I think what we just talked about is a huge, not even necessarily building trust, but like reinforcing trust. Smooth.
Could have been bad.
Yeah, also valuing like our confidentiality with each other. Yeah. And having a really safe, fair space to come to, even within the family system, that is kind of a little bit separate. That safe space to come to, I guess.
100%. I think if I have anything to add to that is, I think we both know like trust is a huge thing in any relationship, but I think like for us, the way that we've been brought up, like loyalty and trust within my relationships is like such an important thing for me. And like once that trust is broken, I really struggle to feel truly like connected and safe in a relationship. 100%. And I think me and you kind of really got that about each other, that like our loyalty and our confidentiality, like if we bring things up with each other, if it is like a secret or like personal or something, that is like, okay, this is a really safe space where I know this isn't going to go anywhere. Yep. And I think because of that, we've been able to have really tough conversations that I'm like, I know you're not going to share this with any of your friends or anyone, or even like mom and dad if I don't want to. That has like really built our trust, and that has happened over years of like sharing things and then seeing like, okay, yeah, like I really can trust him, he won't share it with anyone. And so I think, yeah, trust is something you have to build.
Trust is something very sacred to me.
Yeah.
And once it's gone, it's kind of gone.
I agree.
And again, I forgive people very easily. Like,
it's not like you're like, like sometimes things slip, you never know, blah, blah, blah. But like,
sure,
at the end of the day, it changes everything. And I think, I'm sure we've had times in our friendship and stuff where maybe things slid or whatever and we got disappointed. I don't remember exact memories, but I feel like that's definitely happened. But I think from that we were able to be like, okay, this is really important to us and I'm not going to betray this relationship and this trust. What's something you value most in your relationship?
I think not including trust, because we already kind of went over that one.
I think there's something about like sibling love that they, at least definitely with us, like you give me the hard truths. And I think we talked about this in the podcast as well. Like we had to go through a bit of a
recalibration of how that comes out.
Exactly, of me being like, I'm actually really sensitive and I want the honest truth, but also in the right time and in the right way. And I feel like you've gotten really good at that.
I think that's a big journey that I went through. Which I think, it's funny because I feel like I've done a lot of self-work on that, and then you notice it with other people a lot, but it's like honesty does not mean you get to be shitty without any repercussions. And there is a way to be honest.
Exactly.
That doesn't just mean, like, I'll use us as an example of like when you make something creative, when we're working on a project together and you're coming to me in this place of vulnerability, what do you think? There's a way to say, I don't like it and this is what you should change. That isn't just, I don't like it, change this. You know? With many struggles that I have in my life, whether it's my mental health or where I'm at in life or insecurities I have or plans for the future or whatever, like the first person that I'm going to share that with is you. Like you're the one that I trust the most to kind of open up to and open my world up in a way that I don't really do with that many other people. And like you said, in a different context, it's very vulnerable and I feel very fortunate to have you for that. Love it.
I feel like also from like my perspective, I'm like, I think it's such an honor. Like I feel so grateful for you and like, you know, other friends that like choose to like be open with me. Like I know how sacred that is in any relationship, and with us I'm just like, I'm so honored that you feel like you can be like vulnerable and open with me in that way. And I think another thing, and I see in a lot of sibling relationships, is people aren't able to see that and be like, oh my god, I'm actually so lucky that I get to witness this person in such a like vulnerable, personal, intimate way.
Whole lot of love.
Bro, this whole video is us just
good every once in a while to just remind each other how appreciated we both are.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like with this video, I think it's like, you know, the stuff we're sharing is like, yeah, we know, but it's not like you sit with your sibling every day and like talk about all this stuff. So I think it is actually, even for us, just like so nice to be able to do this. And part of the reason I wanted to film this video, because I was like, you are about to leave, like we are going through this like next stage in our like family and our friendship and our lives. I'm like, it's really nice to just like have this little video to like encapsulate this moment in time, literally, when you're like, what, how old are you now? 20. Well, I guess that's the video. After all our trying to set this fucking video up, I hope you guys enjoyed me just
leave a like and subscribe to the channel.
Did that hit my cup?
I think so. It dinged.
That was hectic. But yeah, Adam, thanks for being on the channel.
You're welcome.
hopefully this helped in some way. I know that sibling relationships are quite complex and everyone has very different ones, and I guess the same as like mine and mum's video about like mother and daughter, like just want to acknowledge that it's not always easy, and we're very lucky and grateful for the relationship we have, for the life that we have. So hopefully this is just like some insight, some support, and you know, no matter where you are in your relationship with your siblings, we're sending love. I think we're done. Bye.
Bye. Should we try and harmonize?
Yeah, ready?
Bye. That was beautiful.
That was